Have you ever heard someone crawl toward you in the dark, slowly, painfully, like every bone in their body is shattered, but they're still coming anyway? I have, and I wish to God I'd just stayed in the tent. It happened last fall. 3 of us, me, my best friend Evan, and his cousin Mateo, took a weekend camping trip deep in the Adirondacks. The kind of place where your phone dies before you hit the trailhead. No signal, no rangers for miles. Just trees, cold air, and silence so thick it makes your ears ring. We weren't amateurs. Evan was a seasoned outdoorsman, and we packed everything right. GPS, satellite beacon, bear spray, emergency blankets. Our plan was simple. Hike 6 miles in, set up camp near a creek, stay 2 nights, and hike out. The first day was perfect. Crisp autumn air, golden leaves, the smell of wood smoke. We pitched the tent just before dusk, made a fire, and sat around telling dumb stories while sipping whiskey from a flask Mateo snuck in. By midnight, the fire was embers, and we crawled into the tent, exhausted. That's when the sound started. It was faint at first, a kind of rustle, thud, rustle, thud, like something being dragged across forest floor. We figured it was a deer, or maybe a raccoon, rooting around for scraps. But then it got closer, and slower. Thud, drag, thud, drag. I sat up. So did Evan. We exchanged looks in the dim red glow of the tent light. Do you hear that? I whispered. Yeah, he said. It's not walking. It's crawling. Mateo groaned beside us, still half asleep, but we unzipped the tent as quietly as we could. The moon was out, just enough light to paint the trees in silver shadows. That's when we saw him. At the edge of our camp, maybe 15 feet away, was a man. He was on the ground, crawling. His arms moved, but wrong. They didn't bend at the elbows. His legs dragged behind him at angles that weren't natural. One foot was completely twisted backwards. He stopped just at the edge of the clearing and looked up at us. "Help me," he croaked. His voice was cracked, raspy, like someone mimicking speech after forgetting how. Not quite human. "Jesus Christ," Evan muttered. "Sir, are you hurt?" The man didn't respond. He just smiled. Wide. Too wide. I reached for the flashlight and clicked it on. That's when I realized something was very, very wrong. The man's clothes were torn, soaked in dirt and what looked like dried blood. His face was pale and sunken, eyes bulging like he'd been strangled. But it wasn't the injuries that froze me. It was his expression. That smile. It was like his skin was being pulled by strings. Then he started crawling again, faster. We bolted back into the tent. I don't know why. It's not like nylon would stop him, but it was instinct. We zipped it shut and scrambled for our gear. Evan grabbed the bear spray. Mateo finally woke up, yelling, confused. The dragging stopped. So did everything else. No wind. No night sounds. Just silence. Then, from right outside the tent, came the voice again. "Help me." Except this time, it was Mateo's voice. Perfectly copied. We all turned and looked at him. He was pale. "That's not me," he whispered. We didn't sleep. Not even a minute. We sat there, clutching knives and spray, listening for movement. But the voice never came again. By sunrise, we packed up in minutes and practically ran the 6 miles back to the car. We didn't speak the whole drive home. I filed a report with Forest Services, described the man, even dropped a pin where it happened. A week later, I got an email. There was no sign of anyone. No blood, no drag marks, no prints. Just our fire pit. And something else. They found a pile of rocks placed in a strange circle nearby. In the center, a single, torn hiking boot. The boot was at least 20 years old. I haven't gone camping since. I won't, because I can't stop thinking about what that thing was, and how it knew Mateo's voice. Or worse, how long it had been listening. Have you ever heard your own voice echoing back at you from somewhere it shouldn't be? Laughing at a joke you never told out loud? Because I did. And whatever was up on that ridge, it remembered everything. I took a solo backpacking trip last fall through the Mountains in northeastern Oregon. I'd been there before, once with a couple friends, but this time I needed quiet. A break from everything. Just me, the trees, and the wind. I planned to stay 5 days. No signal, no distractions. I even told my family not to expect updates. They're used to it by now. The first 2 days were peaceful. Cold at night, but manageable. I camped near a small lake and passed only one other hiker the entire time. He looked exhausted, eyes wide. We nodded to each other, didn't talk. I thought he just needed rest. But then came the third night. And that's when things started echoing. It began just after sunset. I was sitting near my small fire, finishing a granola bar, when I heard laughter. Not mine, someone else's. High up on the ridge above my camp, maybe 30 or 40 feet up. It was light, quick laughter. Not creepy, just strange. A woman's voice, maybe too. Faint, then silence. I figured maybe someone else was camping nearby. It's rare, but not impossible. But when I climbed the ridge to check, flashlight in hand, there was no one. Just rocks, pine needles, and wind. I went to bed uneasy. Told myself it was probably someone passing by. But the next night, it got worse. Around 10:30, I heard it again. Laughter, then whispers. But this time, I could make out the words. "You always leave too late," one voice said, light and teasing. "No one ever makes it back from those," another replied. The hairs stood up on the back of my neck, because I recognized those words. I had said them, on the phone, for days earlier, right before I left. I'd been talking to my sister about work, joking about my poor time management and how I always pack last minute. I distinctly remembered saying, "I always leave too late." And now here they were, spoken back to me, from above. I scrambled up the ridge with my flashlight again, shaking this time. The brush crackled under my boots. But there was nothing. No prints. No campers. Just darkness and cold. I barely slept that night. The following day, I hiked 10 miles to a completely different site. No trail signs, just compass and intuition. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not that I could. I still had no signal. That night, I built my fire small, tight. No tent, just a bivy sack under a tarp. I wanted to stay alert. Around midnight, the voices came back. Only this time, they were closer, and they were quoting me again. "I'll be back Monday, I think. If not, just assume I got eaten." That was another thing I'd said. That same call with my sister. They laughed after saying it. Like they'd heard the joke before. Because they had. Only one of the voices sounded different now. Rougher. Slower. Like it had been practicing human speech, but hadn't quite mastered it. It repeated the same joke again, this time alone, slower. "If not, just assume. I got eaten. I didn't sleep. I packed up at dawn and hiked nonstop back toward my car. Every half hour, I heard rustling behind me. Twice, I caught what looked like movement at the top of nearby ridges. But every time I stopped and stared, it disappeared. On the final day, I finally got a single bar of reception on a hill. My phone vibrated nonstop. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I didn't even check them. I just called my sister. She picked up in tears. Said she'd been trying to reach me since Tuesday. Then she asked, "Why did you leave me that message?" About not being alone. I didn't know what she meant. I hadn't left her a message. She swore she got a voicemail from me 2 nights earlier, around 1:30 a.m. She played it back on speaker. It was my voice. At first, whispering, "Still here up high?" They're repeating everything, laughing when I do. I think it's learning. Then silence. Then, faintly laughter. Not mine. Something trying to sound like me. I've never gone back to that trail. Never hiked alone again. Because whatever I left behind in those mountains didn't leave me. And sometimes, when I'm home alone, late at night, I still hear that voice outside my window, practicing my laugh. Have you ever followed a light in the dark, thinking it would save you, only to realize it was leading you straight to something that had already found you? That fire didn't warm me. It watched me. This happened in the Blue Ridge Mountains in late October, about 2 years ago, but I still think about it every night I can't sleep. I had taken a solo backpacking trip. I'd done that hike before. Early fall colors, quiet trails, a way to reset before winter. 3 nights, all backcountry, no service. I liked it that way. No noise, no crowds. Just trees, wind, and time to think. The first 2 nights were uneventful, chilly but beautiful. I camped beside a stream, made simple meals, wrote in my little trail journal. Normal. But the 3rd day, something shifted. The sky had been overcast since morning. By afternoon, a mist settled over the trail like a veil, and I lost the sun behind heavy cloud cover. I misjudged the time and distance, and by the time I realized it, I was far off the ridge, maybe a mile off course. Everything looked the same. Gnarled trees, mossy rocks, endless leaves underfoot. Still no panic. Not yet. I had food, gear, maps, and I'd been through worse. But when the mist thickened into rain and the sun fully disappeared, I knew I had to stop. Fast. I was cold, wet, and slipping too often on slick routes. The woods had grown eerily quiet. No birds, no rustling. That's when I saw it. Through the fog, just beyond a grove of bare oaks, a warm, flickering glow. A fire. I froze. There weren't any marked campgrounds nearby, at least none I remembered. But the light was steady, orange, dancing. Someone had to be there. A hiker like me, maybe a hunter. And I wasn't going to turn down help. I called out, "Hey, I'm a little lost." "Hello." No answer. I started toward it, half sliding down a muddy incline. As I got closer, I saw what looked like a ring of stones. A flame, burning strong. And someone. A person crouched beside the fire, unmoving. Relief hit me hard. My throat tightened from it. "Hey," I shouted again. "I'm coming over, okay?" Still nothing. I kept going. But when I was maybe 20, 25 feet away, the fire just vanished. Snuffed out like a candle. No sparks, no smoke. Just gone. And the figure beside it? Also gone. I stood there in the dim fog, rain dripping off my hood, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I noticed something that still makes my stomach turn. The ground where the fire had been, it was dry. Not warm. Not scorched. No ashes. No burn marks. No footprints near it, except 2 deep prints, sunken into the wet mud, pointed directly toward me. And then I looked behind me. There were more. Footprints. Fresh ones. Human. Coming from the fire. But they didn't go past me. They stopped right behind where I stood. Like someone had walked up to me, but never walked away. I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. But there was no one there. Just mist and trees and the sound of rain dripping through empty branches. I tried to calm myself. I told myself it was an illusion, a trick of the fog, of exhaustion. Then I heard it. Something moving just off to the right. Crunch. A slow, deliberate step on wet leaves. Then another. And another. I didn't look. I just ran. I tore through the trees, branches slapping my face, roots catching at my boots. I didn't stop until I found a jagged rock wall and climbed up into a shallow crevice. My breath was ragged, my hands numb, and below me, that same flickering light returned, far in the distance, not where I had come from, deeper into the woods. Then something worse. I heard a sound I'll never forget, the sharp, unmistakable scratch of a match being struck, and a low voice, crackling like firewood popping. Closer this time. I stayed there until daylight. Didn't sleep. Didn't blink. When I climbed down that rock wall the next morning, there were no signs of a fire. No footprints. But about half a mile later, near where I rejoined the trail, I found something tied to a tree. A piece of cloth, burnt at the edges. It was mine. From my backpack. Torn clean off. I'd never even noticed it was gone. I made it out later that day. Didn't stop hiking. Didn't eat. I just walked. I've never told anyone this in person. People always say things like, "You were just tired," or "It was your mind playing tricks." But I know what I saw. And every now and then, especially in the fall, I still dream of that fire. Still hear that voice in the trees. And wonder if next time, it won't just watch. It'll follow.